My name is Jocelyn Flores, and I will be conducting a diversity training program on the autism spectrum disorder. So, a couple of things about the company is that they are designed to improve employees' cultural competence and cultural humility towards employees who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. They also hope to increase awareness and build a deeper understanding of the historical context in which people on the autism spectrum currently operate. The learning objectives will be that employers will identify the definition and characteristics of autism spectrum disorder. Employees will learn dimensions of racism regarding autism spectrum disorder. They will enhance their understanding of how to support employees with autism, and employees will review discussion questions. For today's agenda and this training program, I will be providing a short clip where it will define autism spectrum disorder and explain some of the characteristics. And then I will also dive deeper into the 4 levels of inequality / dimensions of racism, which include structural, institutional, interpersonal, and internalized. And then I will talk about how we can be supportive as an employee in the company and then go over some discussion questions. So this is a short animation about autism. However, the video is not, the audio is not working, but I will uh, click on the video and add the subtitles. So for the first level of inequality, or the dimension of racism, it is structural and systemic racism. Individuals with autism experience work barriers, such as social, and that has to do with human interaction and communication when having different conversations with other employees. The second is formality, and this is process-related aspects of job entries. Um, the third is job demand concerns, which is difficulties meeting specific requirements for employment. Unfortunately, a lot of individuals with autism are rejected or they're hired for first level job entries, or they're fired from the company, etc. In terms of intersectionality, uh, multiracial individuals do experience more difficulty accessing treatment services, and there's usually delays when it comes to what resources are available and how fast they can uh, they can see somebody or get a diagnosis. Systems support white families accessing care over other families, and this creates a huge disadvantage to multiracial communities. For the second level, it's institutional slash organizational racism, and this is where adults with autism are less likely to find employment after graduation. 90% of the adult population with autism are either unemployed or underemployed. Um, Many times they're overlooked during job interviews due to not having all of the soft skills that they require. And these soft skills um, can be emotional intelligence, people skills, social skills, and time management skills. Many employers don't fully understand autism spectrum disorder, um, and since they're only focusing on what they're lacking, um, they're not being they're not as aware of the benefits that employees with autism can bring to their company um, in the future. For the third level, it's interpersonal racism, and it's been known that there's different responses towards autism in women versus men. A lot of times, women with autism are seen to have a greater drive um, when it comes to being sociable and engaging, and they're usually seen as conformists. And on the other hand, men with autism are usually seen as impulsive and hyperactive. Um, Individuals with autism are reduced to stereotypes and microaggressions that society has created. Um, and some of these stereotypes portray them as being unemotional or quote unquote being an unfeeling robot, being a math whiz, being a child, being aggressive, having outbursts or meltdowns when there's a slight inconvenience. But again, these are stereotypes and microaggressions that society has created, and unfortunately, they're pretty common um, in different areas of such as the workplace. And level four is internalized racism. And this is where social norms are different compared to others. Individuals with autism experience greater pressure to hide who they really are in order to fit into this non autistic culture. And by trying to fit in, they're suppressing certain behaviors such as stimming. Um, they struggle to read social cues and they feel they have a great need to be like others at the expense of their well being and their mental health. Overall, this is considered masking, and masking often leads to anxiety, depression, suicidal behavior, and suicidal thoughts. So, how can employers support employees with autism? How can you help? And there's different points. The first one is definitely to be considerate of their needs and not weaponize them. Asking and learning about their language preferences. Some people may prefer to go as an autistic person, whereas others may prefer to go as a person with autism. So just really taking the time to ask them and to learn what they prefer will create a more will create more comfortability for both you and the other employee. Also, when using language or having a conversation, um, research shows to keep it short, use simple words, short sentences, or visual prompts. they will definitely go a long way in order to keep things clear and sufficient. And recruiting a workforce that reflects diverse communities, um, such as race, ethnicity, gender, age, etc. Providing structure to their day is definitely very important. You can do this by having clear directions and guidelines for the tasks that they will be performing, allowing individuals with autism to become accustomed to their new environment. You can do this by having 5 minutes of relaxation in between each new environment in order for them to settle in and reduce their anxiety. You can also avoid noisy or distracting environments when they're not necessarily needed, and provide mentors or job coaches that can help guide them and help them perform to their fullest. Also, a big one is to listen, be an active listener when having a conversation, and being patient. Um, Avoiding ableist terms like the word weird can go back to the interpersonal and internalized levels of inequality. Um, so instead, you can provide reasonable accommodations, and these accommodations can include offering noise reducing headphones, turning off lights or dimming them, respecting personal space, having one-to-one meetings to avoid the feeling of being clustered with other people, and providing information about changes in advance. Um, so then employees with autism are able to adjust their schedules and their routine and be ready for when the new changes approach. Another point on how you can support is emphasizing the positives, um, by providing employees with autism, uh, and pointing out their positives. It gives them self-belief and self-confidence, and they may be willing to try out different things. They may be willing to step out of their comfort zone, and it can be great, letting them set their own expectations instead of giving them expectations also is very helpful. Being aware of when they get anxious, um, spreading awareness of different neurodiverse behaviors and thinking patterns, and spreading kindness and compassion in order to get rid of that stigma that society has. Also, aiming for a safe environment is key. When there's a safe and secure environment, employees with autism are much more likely to thrive and feel more comfortable um, with the rest of the employees and the company itself. So there's a paradox, which is the autism employment paradox, where autistic professionals can be up to 140% more productive than the typical employee when they're properly matched to their jobs. And properly matched to their jobs can usually be the three main types of employment for adults with autism, which are competitive, supported, and secure sheltered employment. Also, autistic professionals bring valuable strengths to the workplace, and some of these strengths are uh, they're very reliable, they're they're loyal, and they independently focus on their tasks, and they understand complex systems. Some discussion questions for this training program is: how can you advocate for an employee with autism, and how can you promote autism awareness in the workplace? So we'll definitely take a couple minutes to discuss these. But overall, thank you so much for having me and giving me the time to conduct this diversity training program. If you have any questions or concerns, my email will be posted below. So thank you again. I hope that you were able to get a better understanding of working and being supportive towards employees with autism. Um, and just being able to um, highlight their knowledge and their skill sets, and just treating them as an asset, not as an um, treating them as an asset and retaining them as you would any other employee. So thank you again.